senator from Florida. Mr. President, President Biden has wasted no time at all in embarking on his crusade to hamstring American energy production. On day one of his presidency, President Biden halted all new oil and gas lease sales on federal land. Now, Americans are paying the price. Across the nation, people struggle to fill their gas tanks as prices climb to over $5 a gallon. But, Mr. President, there's apparently no need to worry. According to the President, Americans' pain at the pump is merely part of an energy transition, as he puts it. Now, it's important to note here that this transition is a transition away from affordable, reliable fossil fuels. It's not that high gas prices are a problem to be fixed, but rather high gas prices somehow are the solution. They're what will facilitate this transition. The President is getting the results that he wants. This is a feature, the ultimate feature. It's the end goal, not a bug in his plan. Despite this being part of the plan, and in fact his objective, it didn't take long for the President to realize how unpopular high gasoline prices really are. Now he's trying to take credit for even a slight reduction in gasoline prices. First, by no means is this reduction sufficient. Second, we can't attribute that reduction to the President's policies. To be clear, placing a moratorium on the sale of oil and gas leases on federal land is outside the President's authority. If the President actually possessed that authority, he wouldn't have attempted to portray this as a temporary pause. It's clear that this is a thinly veiled attempt to enact the most radical climate policies our country has ever seen. Policies that have never been enacted by Congress and policies that Congress would not enact. Our suspicions were confirmed when Gina McCarthy, the President's climate advisor, said during an interview, quote, "President Biden remains absolutely committed to not moving forward with additional drilling on public lands," close quote. So much for a temporary moratorium. Confused as to whether Ms. McCarthy's statement represented the administration's policy, I asked Interior Secretary Deb Haaland whether it was indeed the administration's intention to indefinitely pause the sale of all federal oil and gas leases. She responded, quote, "I don't know." "I don't know, Mr. President," is not an acceptable answer to the Utah communities who rely on those oil and gas leases. "I don't know" is not an acceptable answer to Americans paying over $5 a gallon for gas. "I don't know" isn't an answer to the Americans who have found every aspect of their lives rendered unaffordable by this administration's policies. And now this only adds insult to injury. The American people simply cannot endure President Biden's clear-as-mud policies any longer. I've introduced legislation to reaffirm that under the Mineral Leasing Act, the President of the United States absolutely does not have the authority to hold the country's domestic energy production hostage. Their continued efforts are coming at the expense of struggling families. The Biden administration is fighting in court for presidential authority to enact sweeping changes to American energy policy on a whim. Now, I believe the courts will arrive at the same conclusion. We can act now to ensure citizens and companies receive the certainty that they deserve. We can end this crusade. We could end this crusade today if we enacted this legislation and get to work securing American energy independence for generations to come. It's for that reason, Mr. President, that I was disappointed when my friend and colleague on the other side of the aisle came and objected to passing this by unanimous consent today. It does, in fact, state what the law already provides anyway. It shouldn't hurt us to make it obvious. And yet he objected, even though this policy is harming the American people. It's disappointing that it had to end this way today, but this is not over. No, we will be back. We will be back as often and for as long as it takes in order to give the American people the relief that they need. and that they definitely deserve. And now, Mr. President, I yield the time to my friend and colleague, the senator from Alaska.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to my friend from the great state of Utah.